And we are back. Appreciate y'all tapping in with us on this lovely edition of the Doing All Right. Brian's looking at me to make sure I don't break nothing over here. All right, I'm Voch Lombardi. That's Bryan Broaddus over there on his side of the mothership. The Iron Throne is warm and comfy over here, man. Cowboys, man, boy, they can't wait for us to start breaking down draft film, Bryan Broaddus. Boy, the Cowboys are in a rush to get us to break down some draft film. They fall to 3-5-1. That tie is keeping them in the race somehow, though. Bro.
Sure.
I was looking at the standings, and the Cowboys aren't ridiculously out of the race. I guess that one tie keeps them in it, but boy, you know, when you lose to teams that you probably should be beating, you know, it makes it tough to believe that with your schedule getting tough like it is, that you'll go out there and beat teams that, you know, that are actually playing well. 27-17, the Cowboys fall to the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to break all this down for you. But, hey, man, this show is brought to you by our good friends at Tailgate USA. We're going to get all that going for y'all today. Listen, man, let me say this. Bryan Broaddus. It goes bad. It goes bad. But it don't get horrible until it when it rains, it pours for the Cowboys. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
The Cowboys have a phenomenal first 8 plays on offense. They get the ball first. Phenomenal first 7 or 8 plays. A drive killer here, a mistake there, a drop there. You got to, you think you'll have to settle for points.
Right.
I don't mind Shotty going for it because we speak about this the past few weeks or so, man.
Sure.
We go, hey, man, look, you
get a defense that makes you go for it.
And Shotty wasn't wrong.
No, wasn't wrong at all.
Shotty wasn't wrong.
Wasn't wrong.
Defense like this, you know. The play call probably could have been better. Execution probably could have been better. Your tight ends dropped some passes, you know, early in the game to kind of put you in a bad spot there, but I don't mind going for it at all. But you miss right there.
Right.
If the Cowboys score 7 points right there, maybe the game's a little different.
Sure.
But it is what it is. Arizona gets the ball. It ain't get away from you immediately, but Brian, how this Cowboys defense is currently set up is you get to those turning point moments of the game real early.
Yeah.
You know, most of the time, you know, you watching the game, the broadcast view, the announcer will let you know. They'll say, hey, man, this is probably the most important play of the game right here. But it's normally like at the end of the third quarter, maybe the fourth quarter or something. Brian, I felt like not putting 7 points on the board early, even if it was 3.
Sure.
Not putting those points up on the first drive. It was the beginning of what we thought could happen.
Sure.
I'm going to talk about this first Cardinals offensive drive. I'm going to let you talk a little bit, Brian.
Sure.
I don't want to be told you so guy here on the Iron Throne, Brian. That ain't my thing. I don't want to be that guy. Because I think me and you have a responsibility to come out here and tell the people what we thinking. Not because we trying to be right, but because I think that this is something that y'all need to be concerned about. I was like, hey, man, Jacoby Brissett can make some throws.
Yeah.
And versus a good defense, maybe they can afford to take that lightly. This ain't the defense that can afford to take Jacoby Brissett throwing the football lightly.
Right.
I stand on what I said. I would have rather played Kyler Murray. If you play Kyler Murray, you got to worry about the running quarterback, but at least you have the idea that, okay, well, at least Kyler doesn't have a rhythm with Marvin Harrison, or at least Kyler doesn't have a rhythm with Trey McBride, or at least we know that you can muddy the looks with Kyler. If you're a quarterback and have any level of processing, even if you're not physically talented, Russell Wilson proved that to us. The Cowboys can be had on defense. Marvin Harrison hadn't done nothing all year, Bryan Broaddus. His connection with Kyler Murray just hadn't been that.
Right.
Last week, you kind of saw, week before, because Cardinals coming off bye, you kind of saw spurts of what Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride can look like in an offensive attack, and it was through Jacoby Brissett. And I was like, I'd rather deal with Kyler being little bitty and not being able to read well downfield than to deal with a guy that probably can't improv all that well, but he is on time. On time kicks your ass every time, this Cowboys defense.
Yeah.
And boy, Marvin Harrison went out there and had a career year in the first half of the game. In the first half of the game, Marvin Harrison had the best game he's ever had in his life in the first half of the game. And that's kind of what happened throughout the whole game, Brian. And once it rains, it pours. Because if your offense fumbles, drops a pass, false starts, holds, miss a wide open read. If one thing happens, you don't have the luxury of your defense giving you time to figure it out.
Right.
I was watching Colts Pittsburgh this last Sunday, Brian. Colts are normally a juggernaut of an offense.
They are.
Normally this year. Pittsburgh gave them some problems early. But at least what the Colts defense did was they kept them around and gave the Colts an opportunity to figure it out close to the end. Now, the Colts didn't win that game, but they eventually caught up at the end because they gave them an opportunity to figure it out.
Right.
When you down 24-7 going into the third quarter, Brian, you can't figure nothing out past that, Brian.
Yeah.
What'd you see from the Arizona Cardinals beat the hell out of our beloved Dallas Cowboys, Brian? Long drives, too. The Cowboys offense really didn't even have a whole bunch of opportunities at this time. But go ahead, Brian. What'd you see?
Yeah, you mentioned this, Voch, that Arizona, they were one team that had not had a drive of over 72 yards all season, and they had two back-to-back. So that just kind of shows you where you were. I think you laid everything out pretty perfectly when it came to where you were offensively. This was one of those games when you watch it on tape that we've seen Dak Prescott be able to avoid pressure. And yesterday, the pressure was able to get to him quicker than it normally. And you had some issues at the tackle spot. We've talked about even adding Nate Thomas. He got to play 18, 19 snaps. He gave up a bunch of pressures as well. So your offensive line, which you kind of feel like that you can, at least at home, you could kind of hang your hat on that, didn't have one of their better games. And Arizona coming into the game didn't have particularly a great pass rush. We talked about with Sweat and Campbell and guys like that, Browning, but they weren't known as a team that was coming in there and causing a lot of problems. But they caused problems for you. They caused problems for you at offensive tackle. It was really clearly where it was at. More so with Steele and then with Nate Thomas. Guyton had a couple of times too. If you look what happened on the initial drive of the game for the Cowboys, it looks like that Dak wants to throw the ball to Pickens in the corner. It looks like Pickens is going to run an inside release and then try and get to the corner. And Dak's looking at him to see if he could fit the ball on that side. But he couldn't really get to that progression because of how compressed Steele got. And all of a sudden now he's dealing with Steele, he's dealing with pressure, and he has nowhere really to go. If he does have a little bit more time in his progressions, then he's coming all the way back across the field, and he's going to see Ferguson standing in the end zone with nobody on him is what's going to happen. So you get to a certain point in time, you have an idea of the play you want to run, and it happened to him, it happened to him on defense as well. There were times where Matt Eberflus was going to bring 6, and all of a sudden he shows a look that he's dropping guys, and they're a little late coming off the ball. And then all of a sudden, they get the rush, they get home, but ball's gone. They didn't take advantage of the way of coming off the football. There was a couple of different times where Donovan Ezerako, as well as he played, there were a couple of times where he could have been even more effective in just getting off the ball. And, Matt Eberflus tried to give Jacoby Brissett some different looks with fronts where you get a little bit of I don't know if I would have done that bit, is when all of a sudden you've got Houston and Ezerako dropping in coverage, and you're like, okay, that what we call that fire zone where you're bringing blitzers and then you're dropping your edges. And you're going to man, seems like a good game to be able to attack these Arizona offensive tackles. There was ability there. I mean, they could have done it the whole entire game. But unfortunately for them, though, they were just a tick late in a lot of their rushes. And this was clearly, Voch, I think, a game where Arizona went after Deron Bland in this game. Sure did. They had a plan for getting after him.
Why do you think they did that, Brian? Why do you think the Cardinals walk in with this backup quarterback, this wide receiver that hasn't been on all year, and they decide to we're going to go after their best guy that's making all the monies now? Why do you think that's the case? Did they see something on film? Maybe Bland's not all that healthy, and maybe I think they probably had a plan in this game, Voch, that they were
they were thinking that maybe that Bland has not been playing at a very, very good level. You know, we saw him against the Commanders play well, but overall there's been some problems to the game, whether it's been some of his health, whether it's been some of his technique. You know, you saw clearly in that game when they went, when Harrison made that play, the touchdown reception that Harrison had. I mean, he slow plays coming off the line, gets Bland to kind of balance, and once Bland settles, then he's breaking to the inside, and you see that Bland then loses his footing and falls down right there. But they went into this game with the idea that, like, listen, we feel like that with Marvin Harrison, we can win the one-on-one matchups with him. We can line him up to the side of Deron Bland and feel like that we can win those. And they also we knew going in that they were going to try and get the ball to McBride, the tight end. And how did Dallas? Dallas tried to cover him a couple of different times with Bland, didn't work out particularly great. And then they tried to cover him with Bell. And Bell, to me, is a shell of the player that he once was. We remember Bell as a Dan Quinn dime linebacker playing around the line of scrimmage, making tackles, making plays. Yet that player is, we haven't seen that player. They put him in some coverage situations. He drew a holding call. He could have drawn another holding call that they didn't call. So it was a rough night for the Cowboys. The pass rush, the pressures and stuff were there. Could have been even more effective if they would have had some opportunities to get off the ball a little bit quicker and get into those Arizona offensive linemen.
Players weren't playing great.
No.
Voch says this: did the Cowboys defense play better, but just Bland had a horrible night, and that's where most of it came from? Bland and Bell.
Yeah.
The run defense was what it was, but nobody rushed for 200 yards against you.
Sure.
You mentioned to me earlier when we walked in, and some of the other corners kind of did their thing. Donovan Ezraku's kind of coming around.
Right.
Osa had some pressures.
Right.
Clowney had some pressures. And to be fair, this is about to sound crazy what I say, so just hold on. Everybody in here, just hold on. The Cardinals only scored 27 points against you. Sure. This ain't like a 40-something point win.
No, your offense, who at home had been great. Yeah. Was really, but we kind of felt like, though, I know myself picking the game 28-24, sure, and everybody's, asking me, well, boy, that's a low score. I'm thinking like, well, there's things that Arizona does defensively with the cover 4 stuff. And, everybody's saying, well, wait, Dak's a cover 4 killer. But you look at overall, there were points in time in that game where Arizona did a really nice job of playing coverage. I got to give Will Johnson some credit. Those guys did a really Buda Baker. Those guys covered you up pretty well. But the pressure that they were able to get, I think, was the big factor in this game. But yeah, the Cowboys offense and it's really unfair. But you say hold Arizona to this score, but Dallas's offense really kind of a no-show yesterday, and a no-show in a way that one of the touchdowns came from a block punt. They didn't have that magical offense that they've had at home, and I think that was really a big difference in this game. But the protection was poor overall, and Dak didn't have the ability to escape like he's had in the past. But I think that, to me, when you talk about the games defensively, you just did not take advantage of some of the things that you could have done to them. I think there needed to be, later in the game, you started to see more blitzing, more rushing, more taking some chances. You saw that, and it paid off in some ways. I didn't see that early in that football game, and I think that's where I think Flus was late getting to some things. And you watch the third down defenses like I did. I went back and watched them all, and there were times where Dallas had a chance, but the coverage, whether Bland got driven off or pushed off, or the route or the spacing and zone coverage where Harrison was able to sit or McBride was able to sit. Jacoby Brissett did a great job of getting the ball to those spots. But your offense was a big part of why this thing didn't work out yesterday. Defense wasn't great. I tell you what, I was encouraged by, Voch. I was encouraged by Kalen Carson playing yesterday.
Tell me about him.
And I went back and I made it a point because I know people were asking. They're like, well, how does Kalen Carson look? Okay, here you go. We talk about Nate Thomas getting an opportunity. We'll see what happens at right tackle for the Cowboys going forward. I don't know if Nate Thomas went in there and really did a whole lot. Made a statement to say, okay, well, he clearly needs to be the starter because he gave up just as many pressures, with 10 less pass rush reps. He gave up just the same amount of pressures. So to me, I'm looking now like at a guy like Kalen Carson, and I think when you come back from the break, I think this defense could look a little bit different. I would lean on I would lean on Carson playing now a little bit more out there. I think the stuff in the zone coverage was really good. When he was playing off coverage, he looked quick. He was reacting well. He was chasing the ball. When he played press coverage, he was up on his guy. He was redirecting. He was running with. There was a lot of positivity when it came to how he played. So I mentioned the defense. It's going to look different because you're adding a linebacker. You may be adding a couple linebackers. We'll see what happens with Overshown in this game, or this game coming up against the Raiders here in a couple of weeks. But your defense could look a little bit different. But I would consider now thinking about taking somebody out of that cornerback spot and now putting Carson in there a little more, and let's see if Ravel and those guys can start to maybe they'll get an opportunity here. Your team might look different in the secondary here in the next couple of weeks. And a guy like Carson, I felt like that he acquitted himself well enough in this game when it came to playing the off coverage and playing the man coverage that they played, that he was able to do a pretty good job and maybe going forward get more of an opportunity.
Bryan, do you think it's a part of the defense's game plan? I'm just looking at the film while we talking.
Yeah.
You think it's a part of the defense's game plan, the other team's defense, right, to where they're going to work in tandem with offense, right, considering the Cowboys' defense. And the opposing team's defense will go, hey, man, y'all going to score.
Yeah.
Right? Just go score. Do you think that these opposing defenses account for the idea that the Cowboys have to stop running the football to keep up?
Yeah, I do.
I know it's easy to say, well, the Cowboys' pass defense hasn't been as good. I mean, the Cowboys' pass offense hasn't been as good. And you would be fair to say that. But any defense would be better if you knew exactly what was coming.
Right.
Especially a Cardinals defense where their whole thing is to kind of cloud and, muddy the looks and drop 7-8 guys anyway. Right, Bryan? I think the biggest issues that come with dealing with this offense is, one, the other team giving up so many points. But you can't stop running the football. I wonder if this is going to be an adjustment for Shotty. Even if you down 17 points.
Yeah.
Hey, just keep running the ball, bro. Just keep running the ball. Because the minute you stop running the football, the defense can make a quick adjustment and go, all right, we're going to rush the passer, which ain't good for our offensive line. We're going to rush the passer, and we're going to drop 7 guys, 8 guys in the coverage, and we're going to make you sift through that.
Yep.
And I think our Cowboys offensive line is much better at pass blocking when you mix in the threat that they can come off and hit you in the run game as well. I think that's kind of what you saw in the first quarter, Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
In the first drive, pardon me. The first drive, you see the Cowboys mauling the Cardinals. And there were times where it was time for the Cowboys to throw the football. Pass pro looked cool.
Yeah.
Because there was the likelihood that the threat
mm-hmm.
that even Tyler Guyton is a guy that'll come off and smack you.
Right.
If you're not ready for it.
Right.
Man, Bryan, it's like as soon as you take run game away, even at the end of the game when the Cowboys was driving a little bit, run game was involved.
Yeah.
As soon as you take run game away, not even shutting down Javonte Williams physically,
mm-hmm.
but via game flow, this offense is a totally different offense, Bryan, and I think other teams are starting to account for that.
I think that other teams are okay with you running the football. I do. I think teams are terrified of having to defense Pickens, and I think in CD and Ferguson. I think that's the one thing, and the way that Dak had been throwing the football for the most part of this year, I think defensive coordinators worry about that. Dallas is yet to have a game where the running game wins the game. Am I right about that or wrong about that? I mean, we're nine games in. Mm-hmm. Have we had a game where it's like, boy, Dallas ran the ball well? Did they win? I think teams are okay with you running the football, and I think they play accordingly to that. They're like, fine, you want to keep running the ball? Great. It means you're not making as many explosive plays. Yeah, you're getting some 6, 7, 8. I mean, you got some chunk runs that first drive. You get some big chunk runs that first drive. But what happened as the game wore on?
Yeah.
It turned into, well, Dallas had to go away from the rushing offense, and now it turns into throwing the football. And now these teams are better equipped to say, okay, we're going to blitz you, we're going to rush you, we're going to stunt the line, we're going to play different coverages. And yesterday, I believe, Voch, that the Cardinals played zone coverage 93% of the snaps in that game yesterday, when on average they'd been playing around 71%.
Cover 6, 4, and 2, yeah.
Yeah, they went in there with the idea of like, okay, we're going to play zones. We're going to try and make things kind of muddy. And they did. For the most part, they did. They made some things muddy, and all of a sudden, the offensive line, where Dak is usually really good at attacking some zone defense, the offensive line played very poorly, which he couldn't get to some of his reads. He couldn't make through all his progressions. But to your point, I think teams are playing Dallas in a way, fine, run the ball. Mm-hmm. We're cool with that. But you're just not going to kill us. You're not going to kill us with the passing game. And they know that your defense is so poor that they don't worry about giving up the big plays as much as they do.
Bryan, we could do an hour-long show today, man.
Yeah.
We could really do an hour-long show. But I do have some more topics that we can kind of touch on, and it's a bye week. We'll be working.
Yeah.
Just let everybody know we're going to be on vacation from other platforms, but doing all right. We're going to be potting all week. So,
Sure.
So if we're not on some other platform, be sure to still tap in with us. We'll be here talking. So I should say some of this conversation for later. Let's just do this, Bryan. Logan Wilson.
Yeah.
Cowboys went to trade for Logan Wilson. He's gonna be available for us when Overshown comes back.
Right.
That's gonna likely be your lineup at linebacker there.
Sure.
They were sick and tired of Kenneth Murray.
Yeah.
And listen, so they're obviously moving on from Kenneth Murray.
Yeah.
First, let me ask you this. Then we're gonna talk about Logan. What you think took him so long with Murray? What made you think that this front office, coaching staff, whatever? We've been talking bad about Kenneth Murray for some weeks now.
Sure.
Why now we're aggressively, not even aggressive, they just swapped 7-round picks, but hey, we gotta fix Kenneth Murray now, and then Overshown comes back. So now there's dramatic change at linebacker.
Right.
Why after the bye week, Bryan? Why was this not something that could have happened 3 weeks ago when Kenneth Murray was?
No, that's a fair point. You look at, I think the thing with Logan Wilson though is there are some things about his game, elements to his game, that will make you feel like, okay, you've upgraded here. And I think where you've upgraded here is the pass, the knowledge of playing the pass. I think Logan Wilson has a really, really good understanding. And maybe you've missed some of this. I mean, I don't think with Jack Sanborn against the run was good. Jack Sanborn against the pass was poor. Yeah. I think where you get with Logan Wilson is you get a guy that plays the run well, but plays the pass even better. I think there's some similarities if you watch the way that he moves. He's a square player. He'll play downhill. He'll make tackles. He's very aware of what's going on around him. You don't see him like getting in a zone and just continually floating, and then all of a sudden the route comes in behind him and it's a catch where he should have been. He's a guy that's very, very mindful of his assignment and where he needs to be, and the guy has the ability to make some plays. But this goes back to when you look at the coaching, and coaches tend to stick with guys who are like, listen, hey, we've coached this guy up, we've worked with this guy, he knows what we're doing, he's not going to make mistakes. But in actuality, though, the guy is making mistakes. He's not playing where he's supposed to be in coverage. He's not reading his keys fast enough. He's not filling where he needs to be. They had some situations in the game last night where it's that, once again, we've talked about that slant, that edge, and then a fill, and they couldn't get guys to the outside on some of the fill stuff. So to me, this is where Logan Wilson, he's going to come in here. He has that awareness to play, but he has the ability, more importantly, to finish when it's against the run, and he has the ability to finish and play better pass coverage, which is something that they desperately need, as much zone coverage as they play.
7th round pick for him. You really didn't invest too much. I believe he got like another 2 years on his deal or something like that. So I would just encourage Cowboy fans to think of it in this way, that you drafted a linebacker in the 7th round. Think of it like that. He's
veteran linebacker.
You drafted a veteran linebacker. Also, too, just like a little context from you watching the film, I don't think he's going to stop you from drafting a linebacker.
No, not at all.
When draft time gets here, I think Logan's going to be a guy that's around now. And let's just say that you draft a stud. Mm-hmm. You got 3 linebacker sets that you can still kind of work these guys into. And even if you want to keep playing him as a bridge guy for your next young linebacker that's going to, possibly work with Overshown and James in the future, I do think there's a place here for Logan Wilson. I think you were so bad at linebacker.
Yeah.
Like, this is a humongous gain. I don't want to hype up Logan Wilson to make him sound like he's Quentin Williams or some of these, like those level.
I think that, I think that, like, if you were to be honest with me, I watched him and like Quincy Williams from the Jets. Yeah. Me personally, I like Quincy Williams as a better player.
Quincy's much nicer,
much better player.
But if you think about like where you're at to where you are now, like Kenneth Murray, I think I listened to Bobby Bill talk about it. Kenneth Murray was like the last guy, the most bottom ranked PFF guy. And Logan Wilson doesn't necessarily have passing grades, but at least he's in the middle somewhere. He's in the 50s. But the 50s are such a jump from the 30s. You know what I'm saying? So we do get better at linebacker, and we'll see about how all that goes. We're going to talk some more big picture Cowboys, but right now Brian's going to tell us some more about our good friends at Tailgate USA.
Today's show is brought to you by Tailgate USA. Tailgate like a pro. They've got turnkey trailers, mobile bars, catering pop-ups. They handle the setup and the cleanup, so you just have to show up. Perfect for game day in your town, birthdays, corporate events, watch parties, and more. And this December, we're running a fan giveaway. Scan the QR code for details. Book now at tailgateusa.net. Tell them Brian sent you for VIP pricing when you're booking.
Shouts out to Tailgate USA, man. Got some good stuff over there. You know what I mean? I'm going to go over there, get me a little grill, get me a little something for the tailgate party, get some utensils, Brian. You know what I'm saying? So we can cook some stuff up when we do.
They'll help you, man. They'll help you cook things up. They'll set everything up. All you have to do is show up and be your guy.
Hey,
just be the guy. And that's not too hard for you to do.
No, that ain't too bad. And I'm sure that meet and greet's going to be fantastic.
Absolutely. Thank you, man.
Hey, y'all, look, don't get on Brian nerves, all right? Look, show up. It just
be nice, right?
Be nice. Shouts out to Tailgate USA. Brian, I do want to ask you about some big picture stuff.
Sure.
Kind of moving forward off the bye week a little bit. You kind of mentioned it earlier. You're talking about Carson. We just talking about the moving forward situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If I had to bet, and you tell me where I'm wrong, we gonna see a lot more Clowney moving forward.
Yes.
Donovan Ezra, who's probably the starter now, you would say? Yeah, right. Or at least he should be.
He should be.
He should be. We shouldn't be messing around with Fowler too much or Williams too much. Those are your two edges I think should be getting the most burn right now. Your interior guys, cool. Solomon should be playing a little bit more, but your interior guys are probably going to be what they are. Your linebacker core is going to look like Logan and Overshown. Right. You think Overshown's going to hit the ground running, and like they're going to wait this long time to get.
Oh no, that's the whole thing. That's the thing they were talking about. The full 21 days is what they were talking about.
So Overshown is going to play. Him and Logan are going to play. I think it'll be interesting to kind of figure out what that means for the linebackers that were here. Like, do you? Let me ask you this. Let me just pause the big picture stuff and just ask you this. What happens to the linebackers now? Do you just bench Kenneth Murray? Does Kenneth Murray turn into a Sam linebacker and he does that Louis-Fowl thing where he plays like 12 plays a game or something? What happens to Shamar James? What happens
Yeah.
To Leofau, of course, but Sanborn's on IR. You're like, what's the big picture of the linebacker room now with the Cowboys having two much better linebackers coming back when they play the Raiders in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think it's something that you say, okay, of the guys that you have in that group, of the guys of who are the guys that you could probably move on from, either move on if you need the roster spots. Can you move on from those guys? And I think that's where you have to ask yourself, where does Damone Clark fit in this situation? Where does Kenneth Murray fit in this situation? Right now, I think that, to me, it's the Jack Sanborn thing. I think it's taken care of itself because of the IR stuff. But we haven't seen Maris Leofau. We've seen Maris Leofau play on special teams, but he hasn't really done much of anything else. But that's like him, Clark. I think that you need to kind of find a way to keep James involved when it comes to he's made his share of mistakes, but he's also been one of those guys though that the ability to run, tackle. They used him actually as some blitz stuff, and this is where Voch and I were telling you about this when he was coming out of Florida. We were on the draft show. Hey, how do you play this guy? You run him downhill. You let him rush the passer. He's got a feel for kind of these things. He could take on linemen. He can avoid, but you continually use him in coverage and things like that, and that's just not his strength. But I think you've invested in him this time. I think he's worth keeping after here. I really, really do. I don't want to see them all of a sudden he just completely just goes into relegation of playing special teams. I would like to see him continually get more opportunities. It seems impossible, Voch, for them to get Maris Leofau on the field for anything. So, you kind of worry about that whole thing. And that, once again, goes for the the situations that we were talking about. And Jerry Jones mentioned it this morning when he was on 105.3 The Fan. And one of his biggest mistakes and biggest regrets is the fact of the three different defensive coordinators. Because what happens is you now have three different groups of players because of these defensive coordinators. Maris Leofau is under the Mike Zimmer administration. Does that particular player, does that bode well to be as part of the Matt Eberflus's administration? Doesn't look that way right now. But I wouldn't give up on Maris Leofau that way. I think he needs to have opportunity just like James does. These young players need to have more opportunity. Yeah, they're going to make some mistakes. Yeah, but is it any worse than what it's been? Hopefully with the additions with which you make with Logan Wilson and then getting Overshown back, that maybe that could mask some of the deficiencies you might have for some of these young guys making some plays.
Now, Bryan, we got all week to kind of talk some more Cowboys there. I'm definitely going to write that down, but we have a deadline to talk about this topic because the trade deadline is today. So
sure.
I kind of want to get this out before we wrap up the show. We got all week to shit on Dallas.
Yeah.
Our boy Ricky, Bryan.
Ricky Scoops.
A good friend of the show, the dog Ricky.
Yeah.
Friend of the show. He's one of my sources.
Huh.
He had a tweet that I thought was kind of interesting, Bryan. Brother Ricky says the Cowboys have an offer to the Dolphins for Minkah Fitzpatrick, but that would be the Cowboys' backup plan if they can't land a pass rusher.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a hypothetical question, Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
We know who Minkah Fitzpatrick is as a safety. I think he's a really good safety. I would say as a safety, he's a better defensive player than Logan Wilson is at linebacker.
Sure.
That's just how I feel. He'll be the best safety you've had in a long time. Brother Ricky words it as Minkah is a backup plan if the Cowboys can't land a pass rusher.
Right.
I've heard a lot of rumors about the potential pass rush that the Cowboys are looking at.
Mm-hmm.
If Minkah Fitzpatrick is your backup plan for Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson,
makes sense.
That make a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
Do you think Minkah Fitzpatrick is the backup plan for Arden Key, our guy over there with the Raiders there, not Max, but the other guy with the Raiders that played at Buffalo,
Tariq
Kuntz and them.
Oh yeah,
and then Tyreek Wilson.
Yeah.
Do you think Minkah Fitzpatrick is a backup plan for those guys?
I don't want to believe so. I don't.
Minkah can play.
Yeah, Minkah could play. I think, to me, this is where the name that because last night, as I was at AT&T Stadium, was doing my radio show, I was on this Bradley Chubb train. And, and then being around people at the stadium, it was like, no, it's probably not going to be Bradley Chubb. And then, everybody said, well, Broaddus, you like to make the analogies of law firms. And they're like, think about the law firm of Wilson and Wilson.
Yeah.
Is where, they were kind of leading me that direction. So to me, this when you look at Wilson from the Raiders, this is the Dallas way of operating. This is the Dallas way of, you have a player, high pick, that hasn't been productive for a team, and then they make a trade for something minimal and then try and resuscitate that guy's career. This seems like one of and another guy that they probably had a really high grade on. And the reason why they continue to do things like, and just as recently, look what they did with George Pickens. Those are the kinds of things that give you, as a scouting department, you're like, well, look, we did. Now, we've had some where it hadn't worked out that way, but look what we just did with George Pickens. So I wouldn't be surprised if, I'd love to see Minkah Fitzpatrick here playing safety, giving you some stability back there, kind of making sure that everybody's kind of that glue that holds everybody together back there. Smart player, tough. All these things.
Now, if he's on your team, you don't have to draft a safety. Like, he's a guy that can play safety for you the next two.
Yeah, he could play. He could play. But you're talking about, like, I think it's going to be an edge. I think it's going to be a linebacker and an edge. Like I said, I thought it initially was going to be Chubb. Mm-hmm. I think Wilson makes a lot of sense for them because he fits into that thing that I just walked you through. The player they highly think of, the player that they had on their board, and the guy that's kind of been a underachiever for his team that drafted him.
One more thing real fast. Like, I would imagine, because Wilson Wilson not moving the needle for me in that way.
Yeah, sure.
So I wouldn't assume that the draft pick would be all that much. Do you think that Jerry is getting aggressive to a point today, especially after getting your ass whooped yesterday?
Yeah.
That there's a possibility he could spend a cheap pick on Wilson and maybe like a lower pick on Minkah Fitzpatrick. Like, there is a possibility that Jerry could do both today.
Yeah, I think you need to find, they really don't. They're not looking at move the needle type players.
Sure.
Jerry made the whole football world settle down, and whether he's on Stephen A. Smith and he's talking about all these things, and Jerry wanted you to believe that he was trading for Max Crosby, or he was trading for some big fish. In actuality, he was just trading. Is what he's doing. I don't think Jerry and Stephen particularly will want to give up their first round picks. I just don't. I think they're like looking at it right now, and if they can make a couple of minor moves, but if you could take a compensatory pick and go get Minkah Fitzpatrick and add three, you're adding a linebacker, plus you're adding an edge, and then you're also adding a safety to this group.
Yeah.
That now your defense looks a little bit different, and then plus with the players you have coming back, plus if you want to be able to throw Carson back out there from what I saw him play as.
Long show, but we gotta do, bro.
We gotta do.
Do you think that we're past the trading Mozzie and Diggs conversation that, it was kind of floating around, Twitter just talking that maybe Mozzie and Diggs could be like trade bait. Do you think that we're past that point?
I don't. I think everything's still kind of on the table.
So that's even more resources.
Yeah, I think so. I think all that stuff's still on the table. You can trade a player that's on injured reserve. You can do that. And if in fact, Diggs, the word was, he might need surgery on the knee, the right knee and all that. He was out there working out the other day and stuff like that. So I think everything is still in motion and still in play. If you're a team, right now Dallas might be in a mode too. They might be some sellers if you give them the right offers for some of their players.
Bryan Broaddus, we got a long week to take care of here.
Yeah.
Brian, but we're still going to show up to work and do our thing. We're going to pop up on many different platforms and all this.
Excited to get started on my college players tonight.
Hey,
as we speak.
Now, that don't mean we're going to come up in here and start talking about players.
But
we'll let y'all know.
Yeah, but I just wanted to make it known that I'm starting on my players now. I'm just going to start, and you tell me when we have that show. But I'm going to start on that journey right now.
Let me tell you what I don't like, Brian. I'll be like, all right, y'all, I'm going to start draft content at some point.
Yeah.
What they don't know is Dan Brugel sent us a list of top 5 guys at every single spot.
Yeah.
Day one of me saying I'm starting draft stuff.
Yeah.
They send me a guy. Hey, Voch, what about this cat?
Oh, they'll ask you that.
What about this guy that's going to be a 5th round pick, but I like him because he played for TCU or something. They ain't even on Dane Brugel's top 5 damn list.
Right.
Come on, man. But we going to work on the show.
It's fun.
It's fun.
It's not because, but to be honest with you, if the Cowboys were undefeated, we'd still be doing draft stuff, because you got to do it. You got to start the process at a certain time in order to get all the players done.
So we are gonna talk like miscellaneous draft ideas, but we'll let you guys know when we start talking about players. You won't miss it at all. All you gotta do is hit the subscribe button, and you'll know when we go into that mode. Go to our website, crownglobalmedia.com. Appreciate y'all, and man, Zach really wanted me to do this.
Yeah,
this was Zach really wanted me to do today. We got all kind of merch here, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all be sure to go to the link in the description, tap in with our merch, and if you can't find the link in the description, like I said, go to crownglobalmedia.com, and everything is there for you. It's all laid out. All right, it's gonna be a busy day. It's gonna be a busy week, but we'll be here to break it all down for you. So we'll talk to you tomorrow. Y'all hold it down until next time. Crown.